What will you do when you grow older and the people you once counted on are no longer there every day? The children have their own busy lives, the house grows quieter, and loneliness begins to creep in. Aging alone is a reality many of us face, but it doesn't have to mean living in isolation or giving up on joy and purpose. Instead, it's an opportunity to embrace a new chapter, one where you build independence, rediscover passions, and form meaningful connections. It's not about replacing what's been lost, but about finding ways to thrive and live fully. In this video, I'll share practical steps and heartfelt insights to help you create a fulfilling life, even when you're left alone. Comment your city below, like this video, and subscribe to join a community that understands and supports you. Let's begin with the first step, building the independence that forms the foundation for a resilient and joyful life. 1. Building a life of independence. When I retired, I thought I was prepared. I'd worked hard, saved diligently, and mapped out a future where I could finally relax and enjoy the fruits of my labor. But nothing prepared me for the heavy silence that followed. The house that was once full of life and laughter now felt hollow. My children were busy with their own lives, my wife had passed on, and for the first time, I was truly alone. It didn't take long for me to realize that I couldn't let loneliness take over. If I was going to make it, I needed to regain control of my life. Financial stability became my first priority. Without it, everything else seemed uncertain. I took a hard look at my spending habits, cutting out unnecessary expenses and refocusing my budget on what mattered most: essentials, healthcare, and a modest emergency fund. I stopped eating out every week and started cooking at home, a skill I'd neglected for years. My old habit of buying gadgets I didn't really need was replaced with saving for unexpected medical bills. Consulting a financial advisor helped me feel confident that I could sustain myself, no matter what challenges came my way. Next came my health. Sitting alone at home all day wasn't doing me any favors. I started small, morning walks around the neighborhood and simple stretches in the living room. A neighbor suggested we join a local senior fitness class together, which gave me structure and kept me motivated. I swapped sugary snacks for fresh fruit and added more vegetables to my meals, something my doctor had been urging me to do for years. As I took control of my finances and health, something unexpected happened. I felt lighter, freer. Each small step brought me closer to a life where I felt secure, capable, and self-reliant. It didn't erase the loneliness completely, but it gave me the confidence to face each day. Independence, I learned, isn't just about surviving on your own. It's about finding ways to thrive. I began exploring hobbies I'd never had time for before, experimenting with recipes, reading the mystery novels my wife once loved, and even volunteering at the local library to help others learn to use computers. These small, intentional actions filled my days with purpose and made the empty house feel a little less quiet. Looking back, I see how vital it was to take those first steps. They weren't always easy, but they were necessary. Life doesn't come with guarantees, and aging brings challenges we can't predict. But by focusing on the things I could control, I found a way to live fully, even when left alone. While independence is crucial, the human heart also craves connection, a need that loneliness often makes glaringly obvious. 2. Combating loneliness with new connections. As the days turned into weeks, the silence in my home became harder to bear. Independence had given me strength, but it couldn't fill the quiet evenings or replace the laughter I once shared with my wife and children. I realized I needed something more, a way to connect with others and bring life back into my world. It started small. One afternoon, I decided to visit the local senior center. It felt intimidating at first, walking into a room full of strangers. But I reminded myself that everyone there was likely feeling the same way, hoping for connection. I signed up for a chess club and quickly found myself engaged in friendly matches that sparked conversations and even a few laughs. Slowly, these strangers became familiar faces, and familiar faces turned into friends. Another step I took was volunteering at the community library. Helping others learn how to navigate technology gave me a sense of purpose. One day, I showed an elderly woman how to use video calls to speak with her grandchildren. Her joy was contagious, and I found myself feeling more fulfilled than I had in years. Volunteering not only gave me something to look forward to, but also connected me with people who shared my values. Of course, modern tools made a difference too. My son, Adam, introduced me to a social media app designed for seniors. At first, I was skeptical, but soon I was using it to join local interest groups and even reconnect with old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. One of those reconnections turned into a weekly coffee meetup, where we reminisced about the past and shared updates about our lives. It reminded me that even relationships that had grown distant could be reignited with a little effort. Faith also played a role in rebuilding my social life. I started attending a small church group for seniors. We shared stories, supported one another, and participated in community events that brought a sense of belonging. For the first time in years, I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself. But building new connections isn't always easy. I learned to step out of my comfort zone, even when it felt awkward. Starting conversations was as simple as complimenting someone's outfit or asking about their favorite activities. I found that people were often more open than I expected, and many were just as eager to connect as I was. If there's one lesson I've learned, it's that loneliness doesn't disappear overnight. But with consistent effort, the walls of isolation begin to crumble. Each connection, no matter how small, adds warmth and color back into life. Looking back, I see that these relationships, whether with new friends, old acquaintances, or people I met through volunteering, gave me something irreplaceable, a sense of belonging. They reminded me that even when family isn't nearby, community can fill the gaps. But even with new connections, there's one fear that lingers for many. Who will care for you in times of need? 3. Preparing for the unexpected. No one likes to think about the uncertainties that come with aging. For a long time, I avoided the topic entirely. But as the years passed, I realized that ignoring the future wasn't going to stop it from arriving. One day, after a minor fall in my kitchen, left me shaken. I knew it was time to confront the reality I'd been avoiding. I needed a plan for the days when I might not be able to manage everything on my own. The first step was evaluating my living situation. I loved my home. The memories it held were irreplaceable. But the house was large, and maintaining it alone was becoming more challenging with each passing year. I started researching my options. Could I downsize to a smaller, more manageable home? Would a senior community provide the support and companionship I needed? Was it time to consider assisted living or even a nursing home? Each choice came with its own set of challenges, and I felt overwhelmed at first. To make sense of it all, I focused on 3 key factors: safety, comfort, and financial feasibility. Safety was my priority. Living alone meant that even a small accident could become a serious issue. I began exploring homes with better accessibility, fewer stairs, grab bars in the bathroom, and wider hallways. Comfort was next. I wanted to live somewhere that felt welcoming, not clinical or cold. Visiting a few senior communities helped me see that many of these places weren't what I had imagined. They were vibrant, active, and filled with people just like me. Then there was the financial side of things. Moving to a senior community or assisted living facility can be expensive, and I worried about whether I could afford it. I sat down with my son, Adam, and we worked through my budget together. We looked into programs and resources that could help cover costs, including long-term care insurance and government assistance for seniors. It wasn't easy, but having a clear picture of my finances gave me the confidence to make informed decisions. For now, I've chosen to stay in my home with a few modifications. I installed a medical alert system, hired a part-time caregiver to assist with errands and chores, and arranged for regular check-ins with my children. Knowing there's a support system in place has given me peace of mind, but I also know that this arrangement won't last forever, and that's okay. One of the hardest things to accept is that life changes, and what works today may not work tomorrow. There's a stigma around moving into assisted living or nursing homes, but I've come to see these places differently. They aren't just facilities, they're communities designed to provide care, safety, and connection when you need it most. It's natural to feel apprehensive about these choices. I felt it too. But what helped me was reframing my perspective. Preparing for the unexpected isn't about giving up independence. It's about taking control of your future. It's about ensuring that you have the resources and support to live your later years with dignity and peace of mind. Through this process, I've learned that planning ahead isn't just practical. It's empowering. It removes the uncertainty and fear of what if and replaces it with a sense of readiness. I know now that whatever happens, I'll be okay because I've taken the steps to prepare. If you're facing similar decisions, my advice is to start small. Talk to your family, visit local senior communities, and think about what matters most to you. There's no one-size-fits-all answer, but taking the first step will make the path ahead clearer. While planning ahead brings peace of mind, it's equally important to embrace the joys of the present. 4. Rediscovering Purpose and Joy. When I retired, I thought joy would come effortlessly, a reward for years of hard work. But the truth was, joy felt distant in the quiet days that followed. The routines that once gave structure to my life were gone, and the emptiness left in their place was overwhelming. I knew I couldn't keep living like that. If I wanted to find meaning again, I had to take action. It began with a small step. One morning, I wandered into the backyard and noticed my wife's old gardening tools, tucked away and gathering dust. She'd always loved tending to the garden, and for years, I'd been too busy to join her. That day, I picked up a spade and began clearing weeds. What started as a way to pass the time quickly grew into something I genuinely looked forward to. Each plant I nurtured brought a sense of accomplishment, a reminder that life still had beauty to offer. As I reconnected with the garden, I started thinking about other passions I'd let slip away. I dusted off a set of paints my daughter had given me years ago, promising myself I'd learn to use them someday. That someday had finally arrived. At first, my attempts were clumsy, but with practice, I found a rhythm. The process of painting wasn't just relaxing, it felt like I was unlocking a part of myself I'd forgotten existed. Another transformative habit I adopted was journaling. At night, I began jotting down 3 things I was grateful for each day. Some entries were simple, a phone call from my son, the taste of fresh coffee, or a warm, sunny afternoon. Others were deeper, like the satisfaction of finishing a project or the kindness of a stranger at the store. Writing them down made me realize how much I still had to be thankful for, even in the quiet moments. Mindfulness also became a cornerstone of my routine. Instead of rushing through my days or dwelling on the past, I made an effort to savor the present. I'd sit in the park, feeling the breeze on my face, listening to the laughter of children playing nearby, and reminding myself that these little moments were worth cherishing. Of course, rediscovering joy didn't mean everything fell into place overnight. There were still days when the loneliness crept in, and the weight of what I'd lost felt unbearable. But I learned that happiness doesn't come from erasing pain, it comes from finding ways to coexist with it. In time, my small steps led to bigger changes. I joined a local book club where I met others who shared my love for stories and discussions. We'd gather each month, exchanging recommendations and insights, and I found myself looking forward to those meetings. I even signed up for a cooking class, something I'd always wanted to try, but never made time for. The camaraderie and laughter in the kitchen reminded me that joy often thrives in shared experiences. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone feeling lost in the stillness of life, it would be this: start small. Find one thing that sparks even a flicker of interest and follow it. You don't have to master it or turn it into a grand achievement. Just let it bring you a little happiness. Over time, those small sparks can grow into something much brighter. Looking back now, I see that rediscovering purpose and joy wasn't about chasing some grand, unattainable goal. It was about finding meaning in the everyday, planting a seed, sharing a laugh, learning something new. These simple acts gave me a reason to get up each morning, and they reminded me that life, even in its quietest moments, is still worth living. Even as we learn to find joy alone, many still wonder, is it wrong to seek companionship again? 5. Embracing companionship in new ways. After losing my wife, the thought of seeking companionship felt impossible, almost wrong. Her absence was a constant presence in my life, and the idea of opening my heart to someone new seemed like a betrayal of her memory. For a long time, I chose to endure the loneliness, convincing myself that it was the right thing to do. But as the years passed, I began to realize something. Seeking companionship wasn't about replacing the past. It was about enriching the present. I didn't want to fill the void left by my wife. I simply wanted to share my days with someone who understood what it meant to walk this stage of life. My first step was small. At a community event, I struck up a conversation with Margaret, a widowed neighbor I'd seen around but never spoken to. We discovered a shared love of history and started meeting once a week for coffee and conversations. It wasn't romantic. It didn't need to be. What mattered was the connection, the warmth of having someone to talk to who truly understood the weight of solitude. Over time, our bond deepened. We began cooking meals together, sharing stories from our lives, and even going on short trips to explore nearby towns. Margaret's presence didn't erase the loss I'd felt, but it brought a sense of comfort and joy I hadn't experienced in years. Opening my heart to companionship wasn't without challenges. Society often views new relationships for older adults through a judgmental lens, and I wrestled with feelings of guilt. What would my children think? What would my late wife think? But as Margaret and I grew closer, I realized that these fears were holding me back from something beautiful. Companionship isn't just about romance. It can take many forms. I've met people who found joy in shared housing arrangements with other seniors, creating a supportive and lively environment. Others built friendships through local hobby groups or partnered up for travel adventures. The essence of companionship lies in connection, not labels. To anyone hesitant about seeking companionship later in life, I'd say this: it's not about replacing what you've lost. It's about honoring it by continuing to live fully. You're allowed to find happiness again, to share laughter and create new memories. The people we've loved and lost wouldn't want us to live in shadows. They'd want us to embrace the light. Margaret's companionship taught me that life, even in its later chapters, can still be filled with shared experiences and quiet moments of understanding. She reminded me that it's never too late to let someone in, to allow your life to be enriched by connection. No matter the connections we make, aging is ultimately a deeply personal journey. Aging alone can feel daunting, but it's also an opportunity to rediscover strength, purpose, and connection. By building independence, embracing new friendships, and finding joy in simple moments, you can create a life that's fulfilling and meaningful, even in solitude. Remember, companionship, whether with friends, family, or a new partner, isn't about replacing the past, but enriching the present. What steps will you take today to make your golden years truly shine? Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more inspiring advice. Together, let's embrace every chapter of life with hope and resilience.